good evening everyone, and welcome back to Under the Surface. Thanks for joining me again tonight. And this evening I'm on a small carp water, very local to me. It's got a large head of some very big carp in here, up to 33 pounds. It's the first time I fished it, and so far I haven't even put a cast in. I came down last night to recce it out and seen a lot of good fish in this swim. So I've had a bit of a think overnight about what I'm going to do, and I'll come up with a bit of a plan of attack. So tonight I'm going to be fishing on bottom baits on the red crustacean boilies. I've got a few different options in front of me. I've got this rig here, which you can see, if I can just get it straight for you. It's a sort of half bait, bottom bait tipped with a maggot, and that's on a size 6 JRC Connect hook to about 6 inches of silk coloured hook link and a little weight on there with a ring swivel. And I'm going to fish that in a small PVA bag over this, which is sort of a carpet feed, if you like, of maggots, a bit of corn, some bottom baits in there, whole ones and half baits, and also some microfeed pellets, some gulp microfeed pellets and some gulp bloodworm pellets. So that's going to go out. What I'm going to do is cast over into the edge over there, over onto the grass with a bare lead, clip the rig on and lower it in to the edge. I saw a couple of carp last night over there that were quite large and they were very close in. As for my other area, I'm going to fish one just off this island. It sort of goes down and then drops down to about 6 feet. So I'm going to fish at the bottom of the ledge at about 6 feet, and I've baited that up with about 60 to 80 red crustacean boilies, which I've soaked overnight in the red crustacean dip, a little bit of oil and some bloodworm liquid. There's a lot of bloodworm beds in here, and I noticed in another peg further around the lake that they were absolutely ripping up the bottom last night. So that's my logic, the sort of logic in that, and similar to the carpet feed really, red maggots, bloodworm pellet, and there is some bloodworm liquid in here, bit of gulp liquid, and you can see it binds, sort of semi-binds. I don't want it too stiff, I just want it to be able to break down on the bottom, make a nice bed for them to sort of graze overnight. So it's about 9:05 now. I'm on here till probably about 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, so I think it's time to get the rigs out. Okay, so it's now 10 to 10 and the rods are out and in position, and I very stealthily put that right hand rod out there, so I'm hoping if the ducks bugger off that's going to result in a fish. It'd be certainly worth it doing a bit of stealth tactics in there. But it's flat calm now, it's still very, very warm. It's a muggy evening, and I'm just hoping they can't feel like a munch. I had a couple taking dog biscuits earlier on, but not with enough vigour to convince me to have a go for them. So hopefully during the night I'll have something to report back. If not, you'll probably hear from me in the morning. So I'll say good night for now, and fingers crossed we can get into a fish hold. Well, good morning everybody. It's 10 to 5 and as you know, gather, I've not had anything. It's been a relatively quiet night, which is good in many ways because I had a decent night's sleep, especially as it's a lot cooler out here than it is in the house at the minute. But obviously not great from the fishing perspective, so I haven't had any fish. I've got maybe a couple of hours left, so there's still time yet, and I'm not quite sure when they do feed in here. Only coming down late yesterday evening and not putting out until sort of nearly 10 o'clock. Doesn't give me the best indication of when the feeding spells are. So, I'm hopeful still. There's still an hour or two left, and just gives me a bit of time to get acquainted with the place still and just try and piece some knowledge together on the place. It would have been nice to catch one
But for now, I think I'm just going to get the kettle on and have a cup of coffee and watch the water for a little bit. It's raining, which is a bit of a godsend. It's a lot cooler now. Only downfall is we're probably going to have to pack up with wet gear, but it's not a drama.
Well, it's nearly time to pack up now. It's a bit of a pity because if you can see just out there, that's where my right hand rod is there, and the fish are ripping it up. You see bubbling like hell, and I quite fancy it for a bite, that rod, but sadly I'm not going to be able to get a chance to see if it plays out. But I'm back down again tonight, so I'll give it another go. I'm on a peg. I'm on the peg right down the very, very bottom end there, as you can see, down that channel. So we'll try again and see if we can't get one of these big carp out tonight. Sorry. But thanks for watching, and hopefully you can follow me again in my next session later on. Well, welcome back, and I'm back on the small carp lake, not far from my home. It's exactly 12 hours since I left, and I'm fishing a different swim tonight because the swim I was in last night's taken. So I booked on to fish this one, and to be honest with you, I'm a little bit more optimistic on it because it's definitely got a bit more about it. Looks as though it's a bit more sort of secluded and quiet. And I'm just walking around because I don't know if you can see, just moving across the surface there's a rush, and it looks to me like there's a fish that's possibly tethered up. The rush has just popped up completely out the water, and there was no fish underneath it, so I reckon that's got a liner wrapped around the rush, and the fish is dragging it, which is not ideal. In fact, I can definitely see the rush now. You can just see it coming up there, just to the side of this tree here. Just watch that for a second. That's 100%, that's a fish tethered, which is not ideal, to be honest with you. I'll have to keep an eye on that, see if we can't do something about it later. But anyway, back to me. So yeah, it's exactly 12 hours since I was down, and I opted to fish this swim, partly because this was pretty much the only one available. And what I did this morning just before I pulled off the place was came down to this swim and baited it up with a lot of red crustacean boilies, and just with the intention of giving them a bit of a free feed. I'm not sure if they will have fed on too much of that, unfortunately, because it's been really hot again, really muggy. But if nothing else, it's an opportunity for them to get used to a bit of bait in the water, a bit of my bait, and just really to relax them and make them feel comfortable. I know for a fact that there's no one fished this swim for at least 3, possibly even 4 days, because I came down Tuesday night and there was no one on the lake at all. Obviously fished last night and there was no one fishing this swim, and obviously tonight I'm fishing it. So I've got the gear ready. I'm just going to start getting stuff put together. I'm going to try to avoid casting out until as late as possible again. I don't want to go crashing leads in and making a racket. It's only a very small water, so a couple of leads donked in here will soon put fish off. So I'd rather do both of them at once at the very last opportunity, and just be nice and quiet, set up well back from the edge, and just see if we can go relatively undetected. So I shall fill you in a bit later on once I'm cast out. Well, good morning everybody, and what I've got, oh yes, fish in the net. It's 6:30 on Friday morning, and my last video I left you with something rather interesting going on, and I'll fill you in shortly about that. For now, I'm going to get this fish unhooked, and I'm going to get it photographed and weighed and get it put back, and I'll tell you about what happened last night with me. So here you go then, a beautiful mirror carp in a
Fantastic sunrise here in East Yorkshire, and here's the rig I just caught it on. It's a standard 16mm red crustacean bottom bait tipped with a piece of fake corn, size 8 long shank hook, about 8 inches of coated hook link, lead clip setup, size 3.5 to 4 ounce JRC lead, and then just a small back lead up the line. So let's get it weighed quickly, photographed, and let's get it put back. So here he is skulking in the net, just recovering. It's £15 11oz of Yorkshire Manor Carp. Absolutely chuffed to bits with that, because after last night's escapade, didn't think I was going to get anything at all. I'll slip this one back. I'm going to put the kettle on, and I'll tell you all about my interest in evening last night. Lovely fish though on the red crustacean bottom baits. Made up for that one, and hopefully there's time for another one before I have to go this morning. So I promise you I'd fill you in about what happened last night. Shortly after I took the first film, obviously I'd spotted that there was a fish that was trailing line, and it had been tethered to one of the rushes. So I informed the owner of the lake, and he was on his way down anyway. What we had to do, or what I had to do more specifically, is get out in the boat with a net and attempt to grab the rush and the line and get the fish out, because obviously you don't know what it is. We didn't get a sight of it. The fish was keeping down fairly deep, so you have to assume that it's the biggest fish in the lake, really, don't you? You can't do anything else. If you just think, oh, it'll be alright, then you know, chances are it probably won't, and the fish might, you know, belly up, unfortunately. It happens all over the country. So he was happy enough for me to go out and attempt to get this fish, and then I had 2.5 hours of sort of a little rowing boat version of wacky races. It was an absolute bloody nightmare. Every time I went near where the rush was showing, it'd dive underneath and disappear. And eventually I got sight of it over in the far corner over there in that little rush bed, and I'm fairly certain it was a tench. He just told me there's tench in here. It wasn't a massive fish, probably about 5, maybe 6 pounds at the very limit. But I mean, it doesn't matter really what size or what species it is. It's not fair to have a fish trailing on line necessarily. But light was fading fast, and you know, obviously there was little I could do about it on the boat. So I thought I'd cast out, and then if I did see it, I'd attempt to try and get it. So I did cast out. Sorry, that's the first bite on that rod. Interesting. So after admitting defeat and the fact that I couldn't get the tethered fish in, I decided to cast out because light was fading fast, and I hadn't got anything set up, the bivvy, bed chair, anything at all. I just literally spent 2.5 hours out on the boat, and so I did cast out, put 3 rods out, one towards the sort of corner swim, one in the back of the swim as you see it, and one towards that set of pads over there. And I was chatting to another of the lads that's fishing on here, and I got a run on the middle rod to the far margin. It'd been out maybe 20 minutes, but it was a really finicky run, and I thought, oh, what's going on here? And when I struck into it, it felt really unusual, and lo and behold, I had caught the trailing line and the tethered fish, and it had, well, the bait's over there, and in about 2 or 3 seconds of the fight, something surfaced here, and I don't know what had happened or what was on it, but it managed to slice through my line, so that wasn't the greatest of starts. And it sort of put me back another 20 minutes as I re-rigged and cast that rod out. So I didn't actually get the bivvy set up and the bed chair in place until 1 o'clock this morning, believe it or not. So I had a brew and went to bed, and that's the first thing I had this morning at
just after 6:30 as that middle rod sparking back into life. I'm amazed I've actually caught anything, to be honest with you, because the amount of disturbance I had to cause last night chasing that fish was just ridiculous. But hopefully it's a little bit of karma and a sign from the fishing gods that, you know, I tried to do my best for that fish and they rewarded me with a fish. So I'm really pleased with that one, especially as it's just my second night on this new water, and it really boosts your confidence. It's a lovely fish, £15.11. It's not a monster, but a solid fish. You know, well worth spending another night out here for. So yeah, I've got a couple of hours maybe ahead of me now. I'll put that rod back out there on the same rig, same bait. You might as well just keep going if you've caught on it. So I'm going to have my brew and enjoy the morning.